My name is Kurt Hill, and I'm your host for this evening on Health Quest. And this is a continuation of the show regarding Why Me with Deborah Arneson. Come on in closer and let's talk some more to Deborah about her scare of last spring.
Right, right.
Want to tell us about it?
Okay, we'll give you a quick overview if you missed the last show. I was told by 4 out of 5 doctors I had breast cancer last April. And I expressed to these 4 out of 5 doctors, there's just no way, I'm really not a candidate. Well, I'm sure everybody says that, you know, but I really feel as though I'm in tune enough with my body because I've worked really hard to clean up my trash bin. So I just felt I didn't have cancer. You know, you know how you always kind of intuit, you know how you're going to go? And I know that's not how I'm going to go, you know? So it's just something I've always kind of felt and known. Besides which, I told all the docs, I said, everyone in my family dies of heart attacks and strokes. We work our butts off, you know, drop like flies. It's the way everybody goes. I'm not kidding. So anyway, you know, no cancer in my family, and I take really good care of my health. As you know, Kurt, I eat really well. I don't exercise as much as I'd like to, but I certainly have done more since, you know, the scare. I call it the scare because I'm not taking ownership of it at all.
Good for you.
So you know, it was pretty awful because not only was I told that I had breast cancer, but I was told by a renowned doctor here in Chicago, who I'm glad to share his name with all of you if you call. I was told by this particular doctor, who's like the #1 breast oncologist in the city, one of the top anyway, that I had stage 4 lymphoma cancer. So, which meant I had about 2 years to live. So that was really scary. And I kind of looked at him and was like, you know what, you're a jerk, and give me my papers and I'm out of here, and, you know.
Deborah, I'm sorry. Just to hear that.
I just can't believe anybody has to go through this. And, you know, I mean.
I'm just sorry.
Well, thanks, sweetheart. But, you know, I'm not sorry. I mean, I know that I say God always gives you backdoor gifts. And, you know, the backdoor gift was to do something with it. So it's really compelled me to get my book going, and the book is being written. I'm going to do a series of books. And can I tell you how hard it is to write books? Because, like, I am so chatty. Shut up already. Way too much verbiage. But anyway, so, you know, I know that, you know, I'm not doing what I need to be doing. I think it was a wake-up call, honestly. You know, maybe I put myself in that position and created some jeopardy in my life, you know. Buying into the whole mammogram issue, which, you know, I think is scary in and of itself. And I've done so much research on mammograms and how dangerous they are, and how basically 1 mammogram 2 years in a row for someone who's very acidic and very compromised immunologically is enough to create alterations in breast tissue and create cancer. 1 mammogram 4 years in a row in a normal, relatively healthy woman is enough to create changes in the breast tissue and cause breast cancer in a healthy woman.
You've done your homework.
Oh my God, and it's disgusting how much this has been buried. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. Doctors have resigned from boards knowing that this information was being kept from the general public as of 10 years ago. And there's something called thermal digital imagery, which is what I would now recommend everybody use, especially my women, but men as well. You can do a pre-cancer screening, you know, or find a system screening system, which is this heat infrared, you know, thermal imagery that's done by a wand on your body, and a computer does the reading for you and tells you where there are areas of concern. It's amazing. It's non-invasive, and it shows changes or alterations in cellular, you know, abnormalities 3 years sooner than a mammogram would show. So it's pretty impressive. Plus, you're not getting radiated. So
yes,
it's really important that people, you know, I know that everyone is overwhelmed, Kurt. We all are. No one has enough time in their lives, and, you know, God forbid you get hit at a young age. Like I mentioned to you in the last show, I saw girls leaving this mammogram clinic on Michigan Avenue crying, and they were in their mid-30s. You know, I'm in my late 40s, and it's just amazing to me that we're looking at kids in their 30s and, you know, sometimes in their 20s, and children with the increasing rate of leukemia. Cancers are on the rise rampantly. We have the highest cancer rate of any industrialized nation in the world. Now you got to ask yourself why. So what is the commonality here? What do we all have to do every day? We all have to drink. We all have to eat. You got to look at those sources. You know, what is it we're putting into our bodies? So
I hear you segueing into better water. What
Well,
kind
yeah,
of water?
water is important. I mean, well, I certainly wouldn't be drinking tap water.
Ah,
Okay, now I'm going to explain to you why, and it's going to gross everybody out there out. All right?
oh, good.
If you think, here we go, hold on.
Good.
But if you think about it, we're a closed ecosystem, correct? So the water tables, like let's say you go to the bathroom, I go to the bathroom, your grandfather goes to the bathroom, he's taking heart medication, your grandmother's taking diabetic medication, you might be taking steroids if you're trying to be a bodybuilder, I might be taking, ephedra, other people are drinking vast amounts of caffeine, and all of this goes back into our water supply, then that gets refiltered and we drink it again. Some of those molecules in these medications are so small they cannot be taken out of the water, even if it's purified, reverse osmosis, and filtered with carbon blocks. So you're getting everybody else's drugs in partial. So as an accrued or an accumulated source, you're getting a lot of stuff in your water you don't know about. Beyond pesticides, over 6,000 chemicals that our country is using per year, and over 750 pesticides. Think about it. Those create alterations in biochemistry. They cannot. Nobody really knows how. No one can target exactly what this chemical or pesticide is going to do to this particular person or to me. Because there aren't any guinea pigs. You know what I'm saying? This stuff has been grassed in.
That is an extraordinary statistic.
It's
I mean,
disgusting.
it really is. It is disgusting, but it's also extraordinary.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I know. It's scary.
It's not going to drink it. Who even wants to bathe in it?
Quick shower. Well, I mean, so, when I had the breast cancer scare, I started really, rolling up my sleeves and started doing my homework. Mm-hmm. And I found that it's really important to do a clean water source. So if nothing else, you need to find a company like, Hinkley Schmidt or Sparkling Springs or one of those, or even Whole Foods, that does the reverse osmosis, carbon blocks, UV lighting. So they purify the water, but I wouldn't personally do tap. I would do a spring water that comes from a spring that's at least 1.5 miles down in the earth. The deeper the spring is, the further down the water table it goes, the less it tends to be tainted. So you need to call the springs and ask them, A, where is the spring? I'm not going to do a spring out of Arkansas because everything north flows south. I'm going to do a spring out of northern Wisconsin or Canada or Finland,
mm-hmm.
Or Idaho or Washington State in the Cascade Mountains or something. So,
That's amazing.
You want to go north where pesticides are less, and chemicals are less. Because we use so many different chemicals in agribusiness here, it's ridiculous and redundant, beyond even my comprehension. I don't understand it. And half these chemicals have been grandfathered in. They've never been tested for human safety. Same with the pesticides. There's a huge list of just generally regarded as safe. Safe to who? They're not safe. So our water is really precious, and if you're drinking enough water, like if you're drinking coffee and you're drinking juices, I mean, think of all the water sources we have, in our soda. We're using carbonated water.
Yes.
You think that
mm-hmm.
water source is clean? It's not. In your juices for your kids, it's not. So you really need to be mindful of what your sources are for each and everything. When it comes to foods, for women especially, I would, strongly advise women to stay away from pesticides and dioxin. Corn is we have a lot of genetically modified foods in this country, and corn is number one, and corn syrup is in everything that's sweetened. Everything. It's in our juices, it's in our candies, hard candies, Twizzlers, our cookies. High fructose corn syrup is used as the number one sweetening agent in, I think, 75% of all the products on the shelf today. And corn is sprayed with dioxin, which is number one bad thing for breast tissue. It's not very good for prostates either. So then you've got that issue, and then you've got genetically modified corn, which at the very least killed off all the monarch butterflies 2 years ago in the Midwest. They became endangered within 24 hours. But Monsanto had the guts to say to the public, well, duh, that,
mm-hmm.
it wasn't a danger to humans, only to monarch butterflies.
I remember we did a show on that some years ago. It is astonishing.
Astonishing.
I have a couple of questions I want to key in on for the sake of the audience, and that is, you did go through with the surgery.
I did have the surgery, yes.
Okay.
I had the cyst removed, and at the advice of a homeopathic or a non-allopathic doctor from India that I was working with.
Mm-hmm.
And
How long was the surgery?
It was supposed to be an hour, but it turned out to be 5, because they just kept me under while the lab was, I guess, checking on the cyst to see whether or not it was cancerous. So even though I have this huge fear of anesthesia.
Yes.
He goes, it was a pretty blue liquid. I'm like, blue? Who would put anything blue in their body? What are you talking about besides clean water?
Now, Deborah,
So,
even though
mm-hmm.
we're seeing this strength,
Humorous.
your demeanor.
I was a
your
train
humorous,
wreck.
You were a train wreck, okay?
I was
and
a train wreck.
now the psychological aspects, are you carrying any of the fear? I mean, you went through something that you didn't
Anger.
even have time
Anger.
to think about.
Right. Well, you know, when you're thrown in the middle of that, it's like you just got hit by a train, a Mack truck. I mean, it was really interesting. You know, I believe in signs and symbols. I really do. And I've slowed down a little bit more, believe it or not, in my life, Kurt, to be mindful of that. And I was actually in my garden in Wisconsin gardening, and my grandmother, who I was very close to, who passed away 3 years ago, when she loved butterflies, and I love butterflies. You know, I like butterfly everything. And when she passed away, we were all standing in the backyard in her house in Minnesota, and we were, you know, sprinkling her ashes, and a big, fat, orange monarch butterfly came up and lit on every one of us in the circle.
Oh, my goodness.
And I way knew it was Nanny. I knew it was my nanny. I just did. I was like, you're so cute. Look at you. But, you know, as nostalgic and sad as it was, there was comfort in that. And when I was in my garden, because I had 3 gardens in Wisconsin, and I was pruning each one of them and getting them ready for planting, an orange butterfly was kind of hopping, following me. I kind of looked up and I thought, well, aren't you pretty? You know, and then I went to the next garden. The thing was still like hanging out like, and I went to the 3rd garden, and now I'm getting the worm is back. I called it the worm last time, when you start getting like,
Yes.
what if they're right, what if I'm wrong kind of a thing. And the butterfly came up this close to my face with its little antennas like going like this, and I looked and I said, is that you, Nanny? Like that.
Oh.
I'm serious. And it just sat there like this. Then I moved over, it came over and sat on my shoulder. And I was like, you know what? It's okay. I know it's okay. I feel it's okay. That's her talking to me. So I just took
That
that
is
as a
beautiful.
message, yeah.
It is.
So Nanny gave me great comfort. She did.
Wow.
Yeah.
You said earlier that you really don't like mammograms, but that you were suggesting an alternative to mammograms?
Yeah.
Did I get that right?
Yeah, there's a
Tell
product.
us a little bit more about that. I think that's very important. I
Well,
had
this
no
is-
idea that
this is
they're always
amazing.
advertising mammograms as something to be the be-all and end-all, and now you're telling us something else.
Well, let me just tell you one thing about mammograms really
Next you'll be saying coffee's no good.
Do organic water process, please. Especially women, okay?
I had to get that in. Every show
prostate-
it's our trademark.
Yeah.
Good.
And I love coffee as much as, well, maybe not as much as the next guy, but you know, I like it. I just make sure I do organic water processed, take the chemicals out of the equation, because we get enough chemicals.
That's it.
But there was a really interesting article researched by Sherry, I think her name was Berger, who is a writer for Alternative Medicine magazine. And she had done an article on mammograms, and this was out about, gosh, I'd say 6 months ago, last September. And she had found in her research that the company, which I can't name on camera, but there is a company who started the breast cancer walks along with Avon and a couple other people, but they actually own the mammogram clinics around the country, something like 70% of them. They created the breast cancer walk. The money that's donated to the breast cancer walk is put back into the clinics for research on breast cancer. Plus, they're a company that owns a huge chemical factory that provides this country with something like over 600 chemicals that cause breast cancer.
Oh my goodness. Oh
So,
my goodness.
Buyer beware.
Buyer
It's
definitely
disgusting.
beware.
And I have a copy of that article if anybody wants to call me and get it. You're welcome to have a copy of it. So she goes into the thermal digital imagery, which I'd heard about, and I did more investigating since then, and I found out that this particular screening device has been used in Europe for over 15 years. It just hasn't been able to get past the FDA until about 1.5 years ago. So this is a heat imagery device that you use a wand, and it actually goes around the breast tissue, the lymphatics, the sinuses, the abdominal area. So it tests organs and systems. And depending on the temperature variance in the organ and system, from the time you come into the room, then the room is cooled down. And each organ and system should either heat up or cool down in, you know, in respect to the temperature outside the body. Where there's a tumor, there's more heat. So if there's blockage, if there's, lymphatic congestion, which can be a precursor to creating a problem in breast tissue for women, then you really need to have that examined, or maybe go get an ultrasound after that. But this is in place of a mammogram. There's no radiation involved, there's no pain, there's no invasion, there's no smashing the breast, there's no inducing abnormalities in breast tissue through the digital imagery.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So there are only 3 places in Chicago that do it. And one of them's in Northbrook, one of them's in Elgin, and one's in Naperville. So I also have those resources if people would like them.
That's so important.
Yep. Yeah, it's a good idea.
That's so important.
So I think everyone would be very well advised, men and women, to do this screening. And then what you'll do is, once you've done the screening, the doctor will give you a homeopathic preparation. Or he'll tell you to go home and buy a trampoline.
Yes,
Okay?
yes,
And bounce.
yes.
I mean, they have found, they did a great study, I just read about it last night in one of my journals, that they took, I think, a bunny rabbit or a rat or something, some kind of animal, stuck it on a little, trampoline, and they found just by jumping on the trampoline that its T cells and killer cells more than tripled in a 24-hour period. And they had this little animal do it for something like 10 minutes a day.
My goodness.
Tripled.
With what you impart.
Let's bounce.
With what you impart on this show, somehow there should be a moment of silence to let people write it all down and catch up. That's such good information.
Cool.
I mean,
well, it's simple stuff, isn't it
yeah,
great?
but who knows it? That's
Well,
so good.
I love
Thank
reading
you.
this stuff.
Yeah, I know.
I'm like,
I
let's
know,
bounce.
but that's so practical. It makes so much sense. But I got to ask you something.
Okay. Yeah.
You discover there's something going on in there. You finally make the decision to have surgery.
Mm-hmm.
You told us how long it took. What made you decide to remove the cyst or whatever?
Well, I had been working with the non-allopathic doctor, the doctor from India, and we'd had amazing results. In fact, I did a cable show in my home the night before my surgery, and I have to tell you, I never looked better. I don't think I haven't looked this good in probably 10 years, because I was really clean, and I was doing all his prescriptives, drinking the tea, doing the mud packs, doing the biofeedback, doing the Shirodara, so my brain was really calm. But he said, it's not something that your body needs, take it out. And unfortunately, the doctor who did the surgery, I think kind of sort of bought into the doctor who told me I had lymphoma. And so he took the lymph node out anyway. And I understand the thinking in that it was swollen, and I have my argument for that as well. But, that lymph node's always been kind of tender. I mean, on me, period. I'm a lumpy, mucusy thing. So, you've worked on my body, Kurt.
I knew, you see.
She's got some lumps.
I knew not to go there.
Not to throw a pun out, not. She's got nuts.
Do go on.
So, he took the lymph node out, and that really bugged me, and because I felt he was really looking for more. But the agreement, the verbal agreement, not the written agreement, which was my mistake, and my advice to anyone out there is make sure you get it all in writing,
Good.
So if someone says they're not, if a doctor tells you he's not going to take out your lymph node, get it in writing. That's the one thing I didn't do. So I would still have my poor little lymph node. Now the interesting thing.
But you did so much, Deborah. I mean, when you think about just listening to your bantering back and forth.
Yeah, I'm testy. I'm a fighter, I'm a scrapper. It's just my nature to be combative, I think. I'm such a pain in the neck. But you want me on your team if you're fighting a doctor, okay?
Absolutely. And you know what you're talking about. And that's important. But do go on. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is since the surgery, I've had more congestion. Like the first 6 months, if I would eat sugar, I would have sugar once a week or something, I could feel this whole area ache, actually. So it was really a good sign and a symptom for me to back off of sugar. I'm talking like really good chocolate, like a Godiva chocolate. Just a piece of it would just really inflame this area.
Really?
So, what I have now is a lot of back problems from, I think, torquing my arm around during surgery. So that's really icky, because my back hurt actually more than anything else when I came out of surgery. And Dr. Shambhu again put his Pitta oil on and would blow dry the Pitta oil on my back. It's the only thing that gave me relief.
You've used that twice. You've talked about, what was the other? Pitta oil, Panchakarma,
Panchakarma,
and
Yeah.
something else, Shirodara.
Shirodara. These are 5,000-year-old, over 5,000-year-old modalities for healing with Ayurvedic medicine. So the oils that we use are really healing oils. They're extraordinary. They have like some of them have 20, some of them have 60, some have 70 odd different medicated herbs cooked into the oils for a period of anywhere from 30 to 60 days, perfectly at 99 degrees. So the oils are just astonishing in their efficacy, and the body just soaks them up. So I use these oils, I dump them on my back at night, and I sleep really well when I put them on the skin. So, yeah.
The one question I really want to ask,
What?
did you ever tell the original doctor that he had misdiagnosed you?
No. The first 3 original doctors, you mean?
First 3?
Yeah. No.
My goodness.
Well, the first one didn't say anything. He didn't do anything. The next 3, so, No, but I should send him an article, shouldn't I?
I would.
When I get really mad at people, I just stay away from them.
I think it's...
Maybe we'll send him a copy of this tape, shall we? Okay.
I think you should.
Okay.
No, I really do. I think you should.
Good
I think it's
idea.
important. Because in one of the shows, our last show, you said, never give up your life to another person.
No, and we're
And I think that's a
also
very
eager to
important,
do that.
important statement to make. Yes. And to have these people tell you that, and for you to reach in and say, no, I'm going to get yet another opinion because I believe in myself.
Right.
I believe in what I'm doing. I'm eating enough fiber. I don't have this history.
Right.
At least talk to me.
Right.
That's so very, very important.
Well, and to know that, you can be proactive. There's so much that you can do, to avoid being in that position. And it's not hard. It's like really using common sense. I mean, some people haven't grown up with that, with the ability to like eat whole foods or eat live foods. But for every piece of garbage you put in your body, put in something live. Something that's eaten as it's grown. I mean, there's just the coolest book out, Kurt. It's called Miraculous Messages of Water, from Water, by Yakamoto, I believe his name is. And you can go on his website, www.healing messages from water. And he has done studies on food and water, vibrational medicine of sorts, where he tapes the word love and thank you on the food or the water and changes totally brackish, disgusting, filthy water into pristine, clear, drinkable, potable water. He's done the same thing by taking beautiful, pristine water from like Norway or Finland and put, kill, maim, hurt Hitler on it and changed perfectly beautiful water to brackish, unpotable water.
That's amazing.
So what he's saying is that thought and prayer and for the most part, gratefulness. So I always tell people, based on Joe Bush's, remember Joe?
Yes.
Our friend who's a
Yes.
devout Christian. He says, Deborah, always ask the Lord to bless that which is not whole and make it whole for your body. I said, you know what, good idea, just in case. Okay, we're doing that. So I always say thank you, and I always say, please make this food whole for me. And
Yes.
I mean, so now we've taken to taping all the bottled waters in our office with love and thank you on it.
That's amazing.
Isn't that cool?
I think that's marvelous.
So if you're eating garbage, just bless it. See how it works.
Not quite. Not,
Well, if I'm going to do my, Fannie Mae little chocolate heart, I'll give a little blessing.
that was a little difficult, giving up your chocolate. That's something she never told us before.
Sometimes I like my
That's
chocolate.
interesting. But I got to ask you something. Okay. What now?
Well, my message is to get the information out. The message I've gotten from above is to get this information out to people and dispel the myths surrounding, disease, healing, dieting, all these different misconceptions that we have about living life healthfully. So actually the first book is actually going to be pretty well done, hopefully, I would say by March or April. It's called Fries, Thighs, and Lies.
Fries, thighs, and lies.
Yeah. So it's exploiting the myths surrounding nutrition, dieting,
I like
and
it.
disease.
I like it. I know
cute.
I like it.
It's a big platter of fries on a great pair of thighs.
I'm not going any farther. I'm not.
And then there'll be Fries, Thighs, and Lies, and then we're going to go into cancer next, and we're going to go into
Good.
menopause, and we're going to go into Kids' Health. So I'll do a series of 7 books that have been pretty well outlined. So just get the message out there, and it's presented in a funny, kind of light format, which is hard to do with nutrition. I think it's really hard to do with cancer. So we're going to be calling a lot of people to the carpet. I mean, the first book I call the American Dietetic Association and the FDA to the carpet a bit, you know.
Good.
So.
I think some people should be called to the carpet.
Yeah.
And it's very important that they hear what you're saying. Why aren't you angrier? What are you doing?
Oh, I am.
Okay.
I am.
This is how you get
actually,
angry?
let me tell you how I got really angry. I went with one of my favorite clients to a chemo session at the same hospital under Dr. You know, the one I don't like, Dr. Evil. And
oh, by all means, send him the show. Oh, and there's Kurt hosting it, and I'm Dr. Evil. Good. Just draw me right in. I'm
so
with you.
she actually went to him, and she had an inflammatory breast cancer, and she had very large tumors. We did panchakarma on her. They shrunk within, I think it was 3 months, to like 1/3 their size. And normally after 6 months of chemo, they don't shrink but 50%. By the time they went in and did the surgery on her about 3 months ago, they couldn't find but a speck of one. It was amazing. So she did panchakarma Shirodhara. But when I was in the chemo room with her at the hospital, I couldn't believe what I saw. It was like, I'd say half the size of a football field, about 28 to 45 chairs. Almost all of them were filled, you know, lavenders and purples and blue leathers. Everyone was hooked up to a chemo IV. At the desk, at the nurse's station, they had huge boxes of Dunkin' Donuts. In the world of nutrition, the #1 worst food you could ever possibly eat is a frickin' fried donut. It will oxidize your cells on contact. It's heated. It's like got more than 72 different chemicals to keep that oil stable for up to 15 to 30 days. Most of them keep their oils for 30. Reheat them over and over again. Plus there's sugar and there's wheat and there's gluten in there, all which are highly toxic when they're fried. They're toxic when they're not. And then you've got huge amounts of sugar and chocolate usually on top of the donuts. And then there were big pots and urns of coffee. 68 known carcinogenic chemicals in 1 cup. So I'm looking at this, and I'm with my friend, and she goes, "Are you okay?" I said, "No, I am not." She goes, "Oh, is this making you sick?" I said, "The whole thing makes me sick. I can't believe it." Do you know how much they're yielding here? They're running these clinics 10 to 12 hours a day, 5 to 6 days a week. We're looking at $2 million a week. Take 50% off the top.
Yes.
Huge business, man. I mean, just a huge business to have illness in our lives.
I almost hear another book coming out of this. I don't know, Deborah, we're running out of time, and I just want to ask, is there anything just in closing that you'd like to share with our audience?
Absolutely. If you need to know what questions to ask your doctor should you be faced with this predicament, I am more than happy to give you a litany and a list of those. If you need lists of healthy foods to move to, if you need some resources for the type of tests that you want, the oncogenes and the genes, the protein and the DNA genes that could be found in your tumors, I will give you a list of those, and I will give you a list of different hospitals that do the research on these. Because it's good to send your tumor out to a non-invested party for scrutiny, as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you so much, Deborah.
Thank you, Craig.
Well, there you have it. Thank you for joining us and listening to Deborah tell us about this particular moment in her life. Why me? Why you? Why anybody?
Why not me?
I hear you. Yeah. Thank you very much.